up, everybody?
Welcome back to another spooky episode of the Mile Higher Podcast.
Yep.
Today on episode 87, we are talking about a haunting in Connecticut.
Yes.
The real story behind what happened. Some of you may have seen the movie, but we're going to be talking about the actual story.
Which is just as haunting and creepy as the movie.
It's very scary.
Yeah, really excited for this one. This is actually probably one of my favorite paranormal cases of all time, I would say.
It's really interesting.
Lots of craziness with that. But before we get into this week's news stories, I want to thank our sponsors for today, Stitch Fix, Candid, Quip, and HelloFresh. Also, if you need to chill out a bit, head over to hempbombs.com and get your CBD products. Got lots of new stuff over there. Use code MileHigher for 20% off. But yes, let's go ahead and jump into this week's news stories. So what do we have? Well, we've got some climate change solutions.
Oh, we always love to hear the solutions. I feel like there's so much bad news about climate change that some people avoid even hearing about climate change or like wanting to read any news about it because it scares them and it gives them anxiety. Totally get that. Gives me anxiety too. But it is nice to hear stories where something good is happening.
Totally.
To give us some hope here.
Totally. Well, I think the good thing is that now that everybody's really talking about climate change, it seems like at least a lot more. Obviously, there's a lot of negative publicity about climate change because it is a very scary thing to think about. But
it's very serious.
Yeah, it's very serious. But at the same time, it's awesome to hear, more of these stories of companies, a lot of these new startups that are popping up, as well as just other, companies creating new products to help solve some of the problems that climate change creates. Like, for one, so climate change is going to obviously warm up things a bit. And,
a bit.
The planet's going to get a lot warmer than it used to be. And with that being said, it's going to be harder to grow crops, right? Like,
yeah, that's like a huge
the traditional
concern,
way,
if not the biggest concern we're going to have.
Is food, right? Food shortages, droughts, things like that. So there's actually a company based out of the UK called Seawater Greenhouse. What they're doing is really cool. They're actually solving the problem of not only, if the climate and the atmosphere just gets too warm and you can't grow food the traditional way, and we have to resort to greenhouses. A traditional greenhouse, you got to have a lot of them made out of glass or plastic, things like that, as well as, you got to have a source of fresh water. But what's cool about these guys is they've actually taken a couple different things to create the ultimate greenhouse that can be put literally anywhere. So it could be in the middle of the Sahara Desert. And as long as you have access to seawater, then you can actually, or salt water, you can actually have one of these greenhouses, which is really cool.
Which hopefully we'll always be able to access salt water for the most part.
Totally. Well, and I think
we have so much of it.
Oh, I know it. Our planet's literally covered in it.
Yeah.
So, God, if you can figure out how to like desalinate water from the sea,
huge thing.
Cheaply, you're going to be
saving lives big time.
Totally. So these guys have actually created a greenhouse that uses instead of glass or plastic, they use thick walls of latticed cardboard, which they dampen with salt water, and then essentially that uses the evaporated water that comes off of the cardboard and it leaves behind the salt on it afterwards, which is cool. So it's actually a really simple concept, but it's really smart because if you think about it, that's the biggest problem is like crops. You can't just put salt water on a crop. It's like what happens if you water your plants with salt water? Like
they're gonna die pretty quick.
Because of the salt content.
Yeah, it's super high.
So this solves that issue, and not only that, it leaves the salt behind on the cardboard, and you can actually take the salt and then use it for on your food and cooking and trade and things like that, which is really cool.
Natural sea salts.
Yeah, so they've literally created a way to grow produce and other types of plants and things like that in the middle of the desert, places where right now there's tons of droughts and famines happening right now, like in Somalia and that region of the world. There's actually a lot of
super dry
droughts there and things like that. So food can be hard to come by because there's just no way to grow crops or farm out there and stuff.
But I wonder how expensive these are.
Cheap.
You think so?
Cheap to make, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're made out of cardboard. They can't be too bad, right?
Right. Exactly. It's not expensive, and all you need is salt water, and a lot of these places are along the coast.
Well, it's like a really sustainable option.
It really is.
Wow. This is really groundbreaking.
What they're saying is actually with only 10 square miles of these cardboard greenhouses, they could literally feed roughly 4 million people.
Wow. That's unreal. That's a lot. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's definitely gives me a lot of hope. That's really awesome to hear.
It is. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest issues we're facing with climate change is that we're going to run out of food. People aren't going to be able to farm. You're not going to go to the grocery store, go to the produce aisle, and there's, a million different options for things and get
Most people
unlimited
are so not ready for
fruits
that.
and vegetables. No,
That
but
is
that's
really
the reality of it,
overwhelming.
is that it's going to become harder and harder to grow because a lot of these crops have to have very specific conditions in order to grow optimally. And if, as we've seen just this week with our weather here, it's starting to get crazier. Like, you're not going to be able to predict the weather as easily as you used to. Like, you're going to
and have as much time to prepare. Yeah, we in Colorado had this crazy storm. We had a high of 80 degrees on Wednesday, and then I think it was Thursday or Wednesday night. This storm came in. It dropped 50 degrees overnight, and we got a huge snowstorm. It's really early too. Normally we have our first snow sometime around the first week of November or last week of October.
And it's more of a gradual decrease in temperature versus
it was
literally
bam.
shorts and flip flops one day, next day, literally pulling out the winter coat, the pants, the boots, to go shovel the driveway. It's crazy.
It was insane. And then today it was gone. It melted really quick.
Yeah.
And people were messaging me, is this normal? No.
It's not. No, it hasn't been like this in a very, very long time, if ever. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, and it's a good thing that there's companies like this out there that are starting to wake up to that and really invest and create solutions to these problems. It's really, really great to see.
Yeah, this is another great one too. This is really cool.
Yeah, so we've talked about this before. We've even done a whole episode about hemp before. But the hemp plant is now, it's now legal to grow it in the U.S. and farm it. And what they're actually doing is starting to, we've always known that you can make a million things out of hemp. But
you really can.
Yeah, no, you literally can. You can literally make anything out of hemp pretty much. But
there's basically a huge conspiracy around hemp. If you didn't watch that episode, if you're interested in hemp at all, you should definitely watch that episode because it's really eye-opening to the world.
And it's starting to become more and more popular and all the craze.
Oh yeah,
I go to the grocery store, the gas station, and they're
everything's CBD hemp. Everyone's getting in on it.
It's showing up everywhere now.
People are realizing it's good stuff
all over the world, and it's super easy to grow. Doesn't require a lot of water. It's like a weed, pretty much.
That's why they call it weed.
Yeah, you can make it into anything. It can literally replace all of our material, and yet it hasn't. But what they're doing now is they're actually using it to create houses, which they use hempcrete, which is made kind of like concrete made out of hemp.
Hempcrete.
But what they're doing, this company's actually doing, is they're using hemp as a sustainable material in order to 3D print houses with that material, which is really cool. And it's the first time it's ever been done. So if you don't know anything about 3D printing, or you've never seen a 3D printer, it's actually really incredible what it can do, because it can literally create anything. If you have a big enough 3D printer, you can literally make a house out of it.
Something. It's so weird. It's such a strange concept.
Yeah, it's actually an Australian biotechnology company called Morocco, and they have unveiled plans to make 3D printed hemp homes, which the cool thing about this is it's going to be super easy to make. They can make it in a matter of weeks. You can have a home printed and you can move into it.
Unbelievable. Printing an entire home. And they look really cool. They look very futuristic. Yeah. Totally.
And think about it, you could put it anywhere pretty much.
Yeah. They're small.
Yeah, literally it makes all the panels and then they just kind of put it together, which is really cool.
That's really cool.
The floors, the walls, and the roof will be using hemp biomass, and the windows will incorporate cutting edge technology that allows light to pass through the glass where it is converted into electricity. So talk about self-sustaining. This thing is going to be quite the, it's going to be able to sustain itself pretty much completely
on its own. Wow. That is super cool. I want to move into one.
I know, right?
Gosh,
I would love to make a hemp home one day, completely out of it.
Oh my gosh.
That'd be sweet.
That would be. God, I can't imagine though. I think, what if it falls apart? Is it weather safe and everything? Really?
Yeah. It's not going to stop a tornado or a hurricane from ripping
a regular
it up
house isn't going to do that either. So interesting.
Another cool thing that they just found out too with hemp is that a new study has suggested that hemp batteries could be more powerful than lithium.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy. Like they said, there's a bunch of
It's
scientists
literally
that
a
did
miracle
testing.
plant.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can literally replace anything and everything. And yet we haven't been using it. We haven't been researching it.
Well, there's a reason they, put the clamp down on hemp.
Well, it's, because they took away marijuana on the other side of it. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's cool. We're starting to see more and more products made out of the hemp plant. But this last story I've got is kind of interesting, kind of cool for those of you that, go to church or of any faith, really. And just like you see so much good and bad with churches, right? Like you see a lot of these mega churches these days that are really, really big. I'm not going to name any names, but the pastors are super rich. Like remember there was like the Inside Edition video of like them chasing around that pastor who's on the private jet, and they're like,
oh my gosh,
they're like, do your members know that you're taking private
so much money,
jets everywhere and using tons of, because like when you go to church, like part of your responsibility as a member of a church is to tithe to the church, right? That's kind of like you pay like a membership fee, and in a lot of churches, you either tithe and kind of acts as a membership fee. But what it's supposed to do is it's because the church is a nonprofit, it's supposed to help pay for all the things that the church does.
Right.
But oftentimes in some of these really, really big churches is that the pastors, the heads of the church end up really, really rich and are driving, Mercedes Benz and
wearing alligator shoes,
live in mansions and things like that because they're, putting so much of that money into their own pockets as opposed to, giving it back.
Right.
That's what would Jesus do, right? WWJD, what would Jesus do? Jesus would give that money back. He wouldn't.
And you do see a lot of like negative publicity when it comes to these mega churches. But this is different.
This is really cool though. So a church in Indiana has raised the bar of community service for congregations across the U.S. after it helped to wipe out $7.8 million in medical debt for almost 6,000 families across the state.
That's very, very cool.
Northview Church of Carmel, Indiana. They teamed up with this organization called RIP Medical Debt to use its over 40,000 donations to eliminate the unpaid medical bills of families across 10 communities.
Wow. That's really cool.
Really cool.
Love to hear something like that. I mean, more churches should be doing stuff like that and leading that type of, because it only takes one church to start something like that for another church to want to copy it or do something else or be inspired to do something else.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of churches do a lot of great things for the community and stuff.
But it doesn't often get reported, the good stuff. Oftentimes the media is going to focus on the bad stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Well,
and what was cool about this too is that like a lot of it was just to people that had no affiliation with the church, have literally no idea that this has even happened.
Yeah.
They're just going to find out one day that all their medical debt is gone.
Them. Wow.
And they're going to be like, cool. Wow, that's really cool. And it was all from donations from church members and people associated with this church, which is really cool.
Medical debt is really a big problem. It's so scary.
Especially here in the US.
You can be one day away from that and not even know. Any of us are an accident away from years of medical debt. It's unbelievable.
Oh yeah, it can totally flip your life upside down and leave you in a really bad financial state. So that's why there's organizations out here like RIP
Medical Debt. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
So I don't know. I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah,
Wanted to have some more positive news this week because we all know the world's a crazy place. And there's just
and so often all of our intro topics are just negative and depressing because there's a lot of crazy shit in the world that we got to report on. But this was like a slower week, so we focused on some more positive stories.
Yeah, it's important. I think it's important to make sure that we don't lose sight of
hope.
And hope in humanity. Like I think that it's so easy to go down that dark hole of like, doom and gloom and it's all going to end and fuck it kind of, that fuck it mentality.
Yeah. It's very bad to be like that, especially about climate too. I'm glad that we talked about these solutions because we cannot give up.
All of these things together could ultimately save us in the end. Like that's the thing is we got to keep pushing, keep telling people about all these things, tell people about hemp, tell people about all these different ways that you can become more self-sustainable and just like, let's make sure there's a fucking planet Earth for the next, generations and stuff. Like,
I think that at a bare minimum, most people would get that. That's kind of important.
But people, I mean, we talk about this all the time and it's so easy to get caught up in your bubble and in your world and, lose sight of what's actually happening all around you and, things that are larger than yourself, right? So.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, we'll leave you with that. And let's go ahead and get into a haunting in Connecticut because this is
let's get spooky.
A real creepy one. But before we do, we'd like to thank our first sponsors for today.
I am so excited about our sponsor for today. Stitch Fix is sponsoring our podcast, but I have been a customer of Stitch Fix for a long time now, and I truly recommend their service. If you're like me and you don't like to go to the mall, Stitch Fix is an awesome and convenient option for you. Stitch Fix is an online personal styling service that delivers your favorite clothing, shoes, and accessories directly to you. Stitch Fix has a bunch of different brands that you know and love, plus exclusive styles that you're not going to find anywhere else. After completing your style profile, they really get to know you each month based on your feedback, basically. And that's something that I really love about it. If there's something that I get in the box that I'm not a super big fan of, I can always tell them that I'm not into it and they won't send it again. Or if there's something I absolutely love, I can let them know and they'll send similar items. They can also get to know you just based on your social media profile if you choose to give them that information, which is something I found really cool and unique. After completing your style profile, your expert personal stylist will send you a hand-picked box of items based on your style preferences. And with Stitch Fix, everyone can look their best because they have solutions for women, men, and kids all over the US and now in the UK as well. There's no subscription required. You pick between automatic shipments or getting new pieces on demand. Shipping, exchanges, and returns are always free and easy. Plus, there's a $20 styling fee that's automatically applied to anything that you keep from your box. So the box basically ends up paying for itself, and that's something I find really cool. So get started today at stitchfix.com/milehigher and get an extra 25% off when you keep everything in your box. That's stitchfix.com/milehigher. Just go to stitchfix.com/milehigher today.
One of the most important things that you do every day that we often overlook is brushing your teeth. And finding a good toothbrush can be hard. Now you can simplify your routine by getting the best electric toothbrush from Quip. There's a lot of things about Quip that makes it great and makes it my favorite toothbrush I've ever used, ever. By far, one of my favorite things about Quip is the 2-minute timer because I know I'm getting a perfect clean every single time. It reminds me when to switch sides of my mouth, up or lower. It just makes it super simple. Another thing that I love about the Quip toothbrush is that the vibrations are sensitive. There's nothing crazy. It's not going to make your gums bleed every time you brush your teeth. But yet it's still doing an excellent job of getting in between the teeth, the gums, getting your mouth spick and span. But by far, the greatest thing about Quip is once you have a Quip electric toothbrush, you get these refill packs on a dentist recommended schedule. So you'll always have a fresh brush head because come on, how many of us in the past changed our brush heads and toothbrushes on the dentist recommended schedule? Probably none of us. But Quip makes it super easy because they just mail it straight to your door and it starts at just $5 a month. And for those of you with kids out there, they also have kids brushes, which is exactly like the original, just made for kids' mouths. It's super great. It comes in different colors. And so do the adult colors. It comes in different types of metals. There's an all black one, which is what I have. I just love them. They look sleek, modern, like a Tesla of toothbrushes. So yeah, that's why I love Quip and why it's literally the perfect for getting back into a routine. Quip starts at just $25. And if you go to getquip.com/milehigher right now, you can get your first refill pack for free. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/milehigher. Seriously, guys, support Quip. They are super loyal sponsor to the show. Check them out today. All right, so before we talk about a haunting in Connecticut, let's talk about the haunting in our attic, right? So if you listen to
Josh?
the attic, not addict. Sorry, y'all, attic. So I checked out the attic, and we do have an attic.
Yes, but just like I thought, it's exactly what I thought it was.
It's a very spooky attic.
We're gonna put the video clip in here,
so you can actually see what I discovered.
What the fuck is this? Why is this so deep? What the hell? Oh shit, there it goes. Dude.
What?
This is a whole fucking floor.
No, it's not.
Oh yeah, it is.
So dark.
It's not just a crawl space.
Oh yeah.
Whoa! It is huge up there.
It's a whole nother
Oh my god,
space up
that's
here.
so dude. Robert could straight up be there.
What?
I was right. This is all hollow up here, dude. I don't see anything. Robert?
Hello, Rob.
Annabelle?
So yeah, it's kind of creepy up there. No dolls, no Robert the doll up there, though, folks.
Unfortunately. I was hoping I'd see like a little box or something.
Something haunted.
Somebody would put something
that
up
would
there.
make for a good video. We could make one of those haunted box stories and get like a ton of views.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe.
Unfortunately, there was just nothing, and you can't even step up there, or you'd fall right through the ceiling, just like I thought.
I don't know about that, but
I'm pretty sure it didn't have a floor.
it was big though. You couldn't
It is
actually
very
see
big.
to the back of it.
We could possibly
where
have it
ended.
finished and use it for storage. Because
What do you guys think?
tons of
If you're
storage.
watching, you can see it and let us know what we should do with it.
I'm not going to get in my head that it's somehow creepy just because it's an attic.
Okay.
Because I sleep underneath it. And it didn't look creepy.
No. It looked like
It
nobody's
looked
ever
kind
been
of clean
up there.
honestly.
Yeah, it was very clean. I was surprised. I was expecting to see because I mean the house is like 20 years old, so I was
Yeah.
expecting to see something up there, but it's just a bunch of
Nope.
insulation.
Except for you couldn't see the end of it, so you don't know what's actually back there.
That's true.
That's true.
If you were gonna hide something up there, you'd put it in the very back.
That's right.
We're going to send you up there, Janelle.
All right.
Yeah, you're small enough to crawl around up there, so
Yeah, definitely. You wouldn't fall through the
I'm
ceiling.
gonna need a raise for that.
We'll talk about that later.
we got workers' comp, so you're good.
All right, good.
If you
Okay.
fall through the ceiling,
Do you have insurance in case
we do.
Robert comes out?
Oh my gosh. Imagine if we found like something haunted up there for real, though. That would be crazy. What if you moved into a haunted house though? And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes,
is
a very
moving
haunted
into
house.
a haunted house. I mean, we did just buy this house, and I did have some concern with it because it's a lot older than the other house we lived in.
Right.
I did think about that for sure. And we looked at some houses that were a lot older than this one too. We looked at even older ones, like
Yeah,
50
yeah.
years old, and
Yeah, back
that
from
was
the
definitely
80s.
made me nervous.
Totally.
So, I mean, what do you do if you end up with a haunted house? You're fucked.
You're not fucked. There's
Well,
ways to deal with it.
Yeah, depending. I mean, you hear some of these stories and people are in like bad situations.
Right,
And they can't
right.
sell it because word gets around.
Well, I think what happens is it takes a little while to figure out it's haunted.
Yeah.
And most of the times, once you find out, it's a little too late.
Yeah.
You know, like you're already kind of stuck. And when you're starting to have these experiences, as
Yeah.
basically what happens in today's.
Yeah. Or you just would lose a ton of money by having to move out.
Right,
away.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's talk about a haunting in Connecticut. And that's just kind of the title of this paranormal
Story.
case. Yeah.
So when did this movie come out?
So there was a movie made in 2009, actually. I actually saw it in theaters when it came out because I've always been really into these types of movies.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching it in theaters, and this is actually,
2009?
2009.
So before we met.
Yeah, before we met. And I actually watched it recently with my brother, actually. And again, and it's creepy, man. It's PG-13, and it's actually one of the more freaky, paranormal horror movies that are out there. So if you've never
Yeah.
seen it, I highly recommend watching it because it'll give you a nice little scare for sure.
Josh definitely, before we watched this, was trying to get me to watch this to, be prepared for this show. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll try to just watch a scary movie
showed you the
for the
trailer.
show. Do it for the fans. But he showed me the trailer and I was like, absolutely not. There's no way I'm watching this. Even during the day. We were going to watch it during the day. And I was just like, no, this stuff just freaks me out. But the actual documentary doesn't scare me at all. Talking about it doesn't scare me. The fact that it actually happened doesn't scare me. But the movies,
Well, I mean,
it gives me
it's
anxiety.
Hollywood,
It's not
too.
scaring me. It's just like, and I don't like to watch a scene where a girl is alone in the shower and her doom is coming and they're like playing the music and then,
Yeah.
whatever
Well, I mean,
happens. Like, I
it's-
don't want to watch that. That just I just feel stressed out for the girl and I can like feel her stress. I'm too much of an empath to watch that type of movie because I take it on the emotions of the
Yeah,
actors.
I can understand that.
I get too immersed in movies to like tell the difference almost.
And they're so good with like creating like the scene for you, and
Yeah.
the music and the
I
sounds.
hate watching people in
Totally
terror
like
and
sucks
fear.
you into
Yeah.
that moment. and
Especially
you're-
one of the scary movies with good actors, because so many of them have shit actors, and that's
Yeah.
I can watch that because it's kind
No,
of
this one actually has
this
good
one
actors
seemed
in
to
it.
have good actors. So I was like,
It
it's
is.
a little too real for me,
it is.
and it's a real story.
Well-
and what's interesting is even just from the trailer, I could tell that the movie is very similar to the actual story in a lot of ways. There's some differences, but
There is, but there's a lot of it that is legit in it. They say it's based on true events because a lot of the events in the movie happened in real life. They just added
Yeah.
some, added stuff to
Yeah.
make a movie.
They made it Hollywood.
Right? Exactly. You got to
But-
like have a good ending and climax and some
but
really
some of the
freaky stuff
main
in
like
it.
storyline and events
Totally
that
is
they
totally
had
real.
in it are real.
Totally real. So that's where we begin the story.
1986.
Going back to 1986. It was a different time back then. And the family is the Snedeker family. Snedeker. And they consist of the mom named Carmen, the dad named Al, and their 3 sons, Alan, Bradley, and Philip. And they also had their cousin. They had 2 cousins, actually, 2 female cousins that kind of were there. One of them lived with them. Tammy, I think is her name.
Seems like they had a very close extended family, so it's just kind of like whoever was with them a lot of the time.
Yeah, there was like some family drama, so like they came and lived with them and stuff.
Yeah.
But they're your typical family, typical blue collar family. They were living a normal life up until their son Philip, their oldest, developed a lump on his neck. So Philip was 13 years old at the time that he found this lump on his neck. And so his mom took him to the doctor, and when they took him in, the lump was about a pea size. Obviously, that's super concerning to have a lump on your neck. And the doctor ordered a biopsy to take place on the following Monday. And by the time that they took him back in, the lump had grown to the size of a golf ball, which is crazy and not good. And after they removed it, they told the family that Philip had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma at first, which non-Hodgkin's, I guess, is worse than Hodgkin's, meaning that he had like 6 months to live. So,
can you imagine finding that out as a child, pretty much?
Yeah, I feel for every child that has to deal with that. It's just so crazy.
Oh, so unfair.
It is. So at the time, the family was actually living in upstate New York, and they would have to go to, I believe they went to Yukon Hospital, and that was a bit of a drive. It was like 306 miles or so round trip to take him to the hospital to get the cancer treatment.
And he was also getting sick, because you get major nausea, and then the car ride, this long car ride home.
Can't even imagine
just, like,
going
terrible.
in for chemo and then having to take a long car ride.
Just depressing and miserable. She said it was just really hard on them.
Super hard on him. So because of this, they decided that they needed to move closer to the hospital because, they felt like that this might kill him if they had to continue driving so far to take him to the hospital. And so they decided to try to find a rental place nearby the hospital where, they could just make it much easier on them. And so they started looking for places, and they had trouble because apparently a lot of places wouldn't rent to families with 4 children. And they began to lose hope until...
So they were including one of the cousins that was living with them.
Right. The 3 brothers and the cousin. Yeah.
Niece, Tammy.
Right. So, and I mean, part of the problem too is like, they didn't have a lot of money and they couldn't just rent anywhere. So they had to look for something that would allow them to have all the kids there and be big enough. Because with 4 kids, I mean, you got to have a decent amount of space in a house.
Yeah. So Carmen was actually just driving around and happened to see an old colonial house with a for rent sign.
So this house was located at 208 Meridian Avenue in Southington, Connecticut. And after she took a look at it, she was like, there's no way we can afford it.
Where?
Southington, Connecticut.
Southington?
Yeah. Southington.
Oh, I thought you mispronounced something.
It sounds kind of weird.
Like Southern.
Southington. No, it's not. It's in Connecticut.
Okay.
So obviously a big house too. Like it's clearly a spacious looking house. And so Carmen decided to contact the landlord about the listing and see, can I afford it? Which she didn't think she could. And surprisingly, the landlord said, gave her a good price and agreed to rent to them. So they were super pumped about that and decided to head home.
Yeah, well, at first they thought they were just lucky and that the guy was nice, but
yeah.
I mean,
little did they know what they were about to move into.
Yeah.
So the family moved in on June 30th, 1986. And as they were moving in, the father, Al, made a very disturbing discovery. Because apparently when she went, and this was like one thing that I thought about too, I'm like, wait a minute. So if you're going to go tour a rental house, aren't you going to tour the whole thing? Like, aren't you going to go upstairs, downstairs?
Yeah.
Don't you want to know what's in it? Apparently, she didn't go in the basement because they were kind of doing some remodeling to it. They had like a handy woman contractor lady in there doing work on it. And so there was like a bunch of stuff blocking the downstairs. So she never actually went downstairs before signing the lease and giving the deposit and first month's rent.
Janelle, you can't make that mistake.
Janelle checked the basement.
Yeah.
She's looking at a house to rent right now.
Yeah.
And she can't see it before signing it.
I know. I was just thinking about that. I'm like, crap.
What
Well,
if they've got a
then I'm-
mortuary in the basement?
Well, then I'm breaking the lease. I'm going to put it in the lease. Cannot have mortuary.
Cannot be haunted.
Cannot
You should
be
put, like,
haunted.
if house is haunted and energy is shit, I will leave.
I will leave and
No
need my money
questions
back.
asked. Yeah.
Funny side note. Well, not funny side note, but side note. There's I saw this random article about a Texas real estate company that does paranormal investigations on homes for their clients. Like before you move into the home,
Really?
they do a whole paranormal investigation on it
Interesting.
before you buy it.
That's kind of interesting. I honestly thought about like bringing someone out to this house, like when we were looking at buying it. Like, it would be nice to bring like a Reiki person or someone that
A
has-
medium, like
just a medium that can kind of just sense the energy and tell me
Right.
like yay or nay on this situation.
yeah. At least
But-
tell you if like they sense a negative presence. Like
That should be a service. For
should just be a
houses.
part of the home inspection, right?
Yeah,
Like,
they bring like an EVP thing in.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called, an EVP?
Mhm.
Yeah, they bring that in. Hear if there's any ghosts in there, telling you to get the fuck out and don't move here.
Totally. And just like look at the history, right? Like I feel like so many people move into houses or buy houses even
Yeah.
without knowing the full history of the home.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and that's why I feel like, well, I think a lot of it has to do with age too, and why the East Coast has just so many older homes because
Right.
it's just so much older on that
Yeah.
side of the country.
Right.
So many haunted houses are like on that side of the
Mhm.
country, or just like in places where, London, where places are really old and go back a long time.
Mhm.
A lot of history there. So when the family moved into this house, the dad's like going in the basement to start checking it out, see what's going on down there.
Mhm.
And he discovers a room that was complete with embalming tables, a casket lift, a box of coffin handles, and a blood drainage pit.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine, like, just think
Can you
about that
imagine
for a
if you
second.
came upstades and you're like, babe, you're not going to believe what I found
Did
downstairs.
you even go downstairs?
before checking this?
Do you realize that? Because, I mean, you see this and you're like, wait a minute, what is this fucking place?
Yeah, what the
is this
hell
house?
is this?
And
I would
that's
be
where it,
so
like,
scared.
Ding dong.
Yeah.
This is a freaking funeral home.
Yeah. In their house.
In a house, which is so weird and creepy.
And it's like, you got to think, why did these people have it in their house? Like,
because it's old and going back, like it
I guess
literally,
it was more normal to do that
back then there wasn't like,
But still, oh, it's so sketchy. It's so creepy.
but
Like,
why if you're
why
an,
would you want to do that?
or if you're an owner, why aren't you tearing that out? Why aren't you renovating that
Yeah.
basement, man?
Yeah, instead of renting it out, like just how it is. So
Makes no
strange.
sense.
Ugh.
So not only did they find all of that, but in the they found a small graveyard out back. Then they found drawers full of eerie corpse photographs. Can you fucking imagine that?
No. Oh my
How
gosh.
horrifying this would be? I would be immediately like,
I would be screaming at you. I'd be like, "We are out of here.
you'd be like, call the landlord right now.
Yeah, we
Tell
are
them we're breaking
suing
the
them.
They
I
did
can't
not
imagine
disclose.
this with kids too.
Yeah.
Oh, so freaky.
And she knew knowing going into this that she would have to put probably the boys downstairs in the basement.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of these old houses, the thing is like the bedrooms upstairs, especially kids' rooms,
Yeah.
they didn't have like master bedrooms, master suites, this was like small rooms.
Right.
And for a teenager or like an older boy, especially, like that's not a lot of room. So
Yeah.
she knew they'd have to go down there.
Or that they would want that.
Or that they would want to be
Mhm.
away from the parents and in a larger space. They also found toe tags and a head tag
What's that?
for body parts.
Toe tags?
Toe tags for bodies, like in a morgue and stuff. They put toe
Ew.
tags on it to be like, this
What's
is
a
so and
head
so.
tag look like?
I don't know
Just
what
like
the difference
Wait,
is
it
really,
goes like
but
around your whole head.
no, just like tagging a head with a name. Like if you only have a
but
head left,
What does the head tag look like?
it's just like a paper tag that's attached to it.
Huh.
I don't think it's like a special like thing that fits around their head or anything. That'd be crazy.
So this was called the Hallahan Funeral Home.
Yep.
And this was an operation from 1936 to 1980.
Decades.
Oh my gosh.
The amount of bodies that went through this place
Oh, that's so
is
freaky.
absurd.
Yeah.
Because and neighbors knew this too.
Mhm.
Some of the neighbors had lived there when it was a funeral home and stuff. And they
That's so
saw.
strange. And the family just lived upstairs during all of it.
Yeah.
And according to the neighbors, they were really nice people.
Yep. Which is
Oh my
interesting.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. And even some of the neighbors would help them. Like, oh yeah, I'd go with the Bill and the hearse to go to the
Ew.
hospital morgue and pick up the bodies and bring them back. So they would
Casual.
go pick up the body, bring him back to the home, and then they would fucking prepare it for.
Imagine bringing that in.
burial
Like,
or
all right,
funeral.
honey, while you're making the chicken soup at home, I'm going to go pick up the latest body and bring it in the basement.
Yeah.
Like, what the actual hell?
Well,
Who
if you-
lives like that? These people must be a little twisted, I feel like, to want to do this.
Yeah. Well,
And as we'll find out,
I
maybe
mean,
they will.
Somebody's got to do it,
Yeah, but in your house.
I mean, their thing is this was the lower level. This is a totally different part of the house.
Interesting theory, but I don't know. There's no way.
Well, they had a special entrance. This photo has a set of doors on the side of the house that had, I think it had a separate access to go directly downstairs. I don't think they were carrying bodies through the kitchen. Hey, hon, just got to drop these bodies in the basement. And we'll, be up for dinner. No, I'm pretty sure there's a direct access to the basement because in the basement they had a full on
situation.
mortuary funeral home operation happening down there. They had a bunch of stuff going on.
Mhm.
So
it reminds me of H.H. Holmes' basement. It's creepy looking down there.
Yeah. Very, that guy's something else, man.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, how did Carmen, the mom, not know that this was a funeral home?
Yeah, and she claims that she doesn't. In the documentary, she was literally we had no idea, and we found out, and I told the landlord, what's up with the whole morgue in the basement? And they were just sorry, you have to deal with it or you're going to lose your deposit.
Well, and it makes sense, too, because, why else would they have made that big old house so affordable, too?
Yeah.
Clearly, when it's too good to be true, it's oftentimes too good to be true. You got to look, peel the layers back and see what's going on. Because she claims that she went, after they discovered this was a funeral home, she claims that she went to the landlord and was like, hey, why don't you tell me this is a funeral home? And he was like, too bad, so sad.
Yeah.
And because she was like, I want to break the lease or whatever. And they couldn't afford to do that, though, is my point. Is
right.
They already put
they
all
would
that
lose
money
the
down and they
deposit.
would lose all that. So despite discovering there's literally a morgue in the basement, the two brothers go down there and they're like, hey, we're going to live down here.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
And they decide to sleep in the casket display room.
I cannot imagine letting my kids sleep down there. I'm sorry. That is so strange. I'd be like, we're moving.
And literally all this equipment is all around them. The blood drainage pit's just over there. And
Wouldn't you be worried about the mental health of the child with cancer?
yeah.
I mean, that's
Doesn't seem
got to
like
be pretty rough.
But that's where he wanted to be. He was it's almost like he was drawn to be down there.
It's interesting.
And there was actually gurneys still down there, which is so weird and creepy. And they would play on the gurneys.
Yeah. Well, they show that in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one
But
of
they actually would.
They
really
would.
do that.
Yeah. The brother Bradley said, my brother actually had me lay down the gurney in the morgue and they didn't tell me what it was. And it did freak me out real bad, but I didn't want to run because of my older brother.
He spun him around too.
Yeah.
He spun him really fast in the room. And the brother said that he experienced something where he would see faces. He was spinning so quick that he started seeing random faces and shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he was seeing some real things.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the amount of activity that is down there is something else.
Really freaky.
So the family, after moving in, their dad, actually, Al, still worked in upstate New York. So he would commute to them on the weekends and stay with them, Friday through Sunday, but then he'd have to return to New York during the week. So it was just Carmen, the mother, and the kids.
Yeah.
But not long after getting settled into the house, Philip started hearing disembodied voices and seeing apparitions of people in the basement and around the house, including a small boy wearing Superman pajamas that would fly around the south coffin room in the basement. And this is and we're not talking, because here's the thing is you think about seeing spirits and apparitions, and that doesn't always mean that it's something negative, you know. Like this could be
A friendly ghost.
Yeah, exactly. It could just be a friendly child that
Casper.
wants to play or something, which it could have absolutely been. But then they had an incident where 3 black figures with trench coats showed up one night, and I guess they had like a toy robot or something in their room, and these 3 men in trench coats like destroyed it.
Yeah.
And the mom said she came downstairs because she like heard them, you know, saying help, and you know, and she went down there, and the robot was like completely destroyed, and they were like telling her that they saw these things.
Oh, that's so creepy.
At that young too, like how creepy that would be. And both of the brothers recall seeing all sorts of crazy shit down there, shadowy figures, just weird things happening, weird sounds. And it got so bad that they actually had to leave the basement lights on at night because
at the very least,
at the very least, that's what I would have done.
I had to leave my like closet night light on for
I slept with a
whole
light
childhood. Yeah.
I think most of us did.
And I definitely didn't have a morgue in my house or
did you
anything
ever stay in a
creepy going
basement?
on. Did I sleep down there?
Did you ever sleep in I guess you were in one house. Did you ever like, you never had your room down there that like permanently slept in a basement by yourself?
No, I lived in, like you said, pretty much one house, the house that you saw.
In one of the houses that I lived in the basement by myself.
That's
and what
scary.
creeped me out was that there was a storage room.
Oh my gosh.
Right, that like you had to go through my room to access the storage room. And it was like a whole nother room that was unfinished and creeped me out.
Oh my gosh. And it was in your room, the door to it?
Yeah. It was the weirdest thing. Like it was this, the layout was bizarre.
Like weird closet.
Were you always paranoid that someone's going to come through that door?
Oh yeah. I was so scared. And I mean, I was scared
so scared.
And this was like at the height of my like period where I was scared of demons and I'd have nightmares and night terrors. And I'd always thought I would see like lights flicker on underneath the door because it had like a gap between the carpet and the door. And I always would like, I had my bed in the opposite corner so I could like see it from afar. I'd be as far away in the room as I could. And I'd always be freaked out.
Creepy.
It was, it was creepy.
Where was this?
This was 4th and 5th grade that I lived there.
Yeah, but what state were you in?
In Colorado.
Were you in Colorado at this point?
Not far from like where we live right now, actually. Yeah, just kind of down the road. I think I've showed you the house before.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I know exactly what house you're talking about. Yeah.
It was creepy though down there. Like it was all old down there, and there was always spiders running around everywhere. And I went down there because I was like, I want my, you know, how as a kid you want your own room, right? You'll do anything to have your own space, your own room. Because I shared a room with my brother till I was in 5th grade.
No, I used to try to get my parents to let me take the guest room downstairs all the time and be like,
really?
I want the bathroom down there to myself.
Yeah.
And, like get my own suite downstairs, but they never went for it.
Really?
Yeah.
My parents would just like use our staircase as a laundry chute. So everybody would just come, open the door to it, and just throw the dirty clothes. So I would like go down to my room at night, like slipping down it would be like a slide down the stairs.
That is something your parents
to my dungeon down there.
That's hilarious.
And there was no light. There was one window that was like on a side of the house had a tree over it. Yeah. So there's no natural light down there.
Oh, that's so creepy.
Creeped me out, man. So many times I thought I'd see shit, and like I would get so scared to go into that storage room, but I'd have to like check it every night before I go to sleep. I'd go in there, and of course, like
you would look in there and stuff.
Oh yeah, like I had to like keep inventory of what the fuck was in there and like know the layout.
You would have needed your monster spray.
Yeah, scary spray, baby.
Her therapist had her mom put like a can of Febreze
air freshener. I like decorated a little can of Febreze and sprayed it when I was scared of monsters.
Sprayed it around the room. Honestly, that's like a great
so well
little thing. That would have worked so well for me as a kid.
I was like dying of fumes.
Yeah, I was gonna say
there were no monsters.
But
so
you probably like
matters.
associate the smell with like safety after a while.
Yeah, I was like, let me spray up my scary spray. You know what was scary was your storage room in the basement. In your basement of your old house. That was
and we always
too.
went in there too because all of our dress up clothes were in there.
Windowless.
So we put it in there. Yeah, that was
it was unfinished.
Yeah.
That's how mine was in my room. Instead of having a closet in my room.
So not that is
because whoever finished the basement in this house did not expect somebody to like live in there full time. Like it was clearly like kind of a guest space, but they like kind of cheap, or it was just small, so there wasn't room to make a hallway or anything. So they just had like the unfinished storage room attached to the bedroom.
Well, they probably like split the bedroom, made it an extra storage space.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking.
Interesting.
I was going to ask you guys though, because you guys had such a different childhood than I did. Did you even know like 4th, 5th grade what a demon was, or ever heard of it or understood like that there was evil spirits or evil?
I think I would have known what a devil was in
the
4th
devil?
grade. Yeah.
Well, you would
because I would know that kids wore like Halloween costumes with like
the horns and the pitchfork.
But I never believed it was like
it.
real. I was never afraid of it because I didn't grow up religious. So to me, it was more like a Halloween thing, like you were saying.
Yeah, it was like a boogeyman.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was like, I didn't understand the religious type of it.
My parents never talked about like evil spirits or bad energy or anything. Anything like that.
So you never actually like thought about or believed that there was some other type of spiritual realm that was around you at all the times?
Oh, no, I did.
You could be
but not bad
contacted and
things.
not bad things.
No. And then I asked one time my mom, I just asked her, like, what's up? You know, my friend Nicole always believed in the devil and like the devil's going to do this. The devil's going to get us here. The devil's going to make us do bad things. And I was like, what the hell's the devil? Like,
yeah.
I asked my mom about it and she was like, well, not everyone believes that. And I was like, do you believe that? And she was like, no. And I don't believe in hell. So then once my mom said she didn't believe it, I was like, well, then I don't believe that.
Exactly. Yeah. My mom was like, there's no such thing as hell. Like, it's all good. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. It was just
worries.
felt bad for my friends that believed in it because I was like, God, that.
It's scary as a kid, man, because they literally put the fear of God in you.
Yeah.
And
well, that's the point, right?
It's a source of anxiety for me for many years.
I know.
And
well, this haunted stuff is like, I know, gives you anxiety still to this day because just your background with it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in a lot of ways, I really believe in it. And I think
you do believe in it, don't you?
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe in it.
You said last week you did.
Yeah, no, I know. No, I absolutely do believe. I certain cases I don't believe in because there's a lot of fuckery with it and fakery with it. But this story is very interesting. So they kept the lights on, which I did too. I ended up keeping the light on in the hallway every night. I'd always have a light seeping in.
Yeah. Oh, me too. That's very normal.
Yeah.
The dark is scary as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
It's I'm still scared of the dark today. We have a nightlight in our bathroom and stuff.
And the worst is not only pitch dark, but silence.
Yes. Oh,
where
I
you
hate
only
silence.
hear like that hum, that hum that's just always there.
I'd rather be in complete darkness than dealing with silence. I hate silence more than anything.
Yeah. It's really terrible. That's the most scary thing.
Silent moments.
Because especially when it's dark, you can't see, once your senses are taken away, your mind goes to some wild places.
Well, and your senses become kind of heightened. You like hear everything.
Yeah,
Any tiny little sound, you're going to hear it.
You hear like a bump or a knock or something. And you're like, whoa, what the fuck is that?
Stuff you normally wouldn't be paying attention to, but your subconscious is like really turned on.
Yeah. So in the Snedeker house, they left the lights on in the basement for the boys because they were like too freaked out about what was going on down there. But this actually raised their electric bill to a point where their father came home one weekend and just went and unscrewed all the light bulbs out of the fixtures in the basement, which is just like,
that's so
I don't care. Like, come on, man. Like,
you're really not going to give them a light in the morgue, really? That's so savage.
Sorry, boys.
That's really bad
lights
parenting.
Out in the morgue tonight.
They took the bulbs out.
Fuck?
That's so crazy. Like, what if there was an emergency situation or they were being, literally attacked by something?
Totally.
That's so awful.
But after he did this, they reported seeing the lights still come on and off at random times, like kind of flicker on and off with no bulbs in, which is interesting. Because it's consistent with a lot of other paranormal cases. That's like one of the, knocks and, voices and, lights flickering on and off. Electronics get affected when there's paranormal activity. So that's exactly what was happening to the Snedeker boys. Philip began to exhibit radical personality shifts as well, becoming withdrawn and angry. He seemed depressed and...
You really show that in the movie too. They showed that like in the trailer and stuff.
Oh, very much so. Well, I mean, he's dealing with cancer. He's dealing with his own mortality at a young age. You can imagine the kind of effect that alone would have on it. And then going to chemo, coming home and sleeping in the morgue. It's like, what could be worse? Like,
terrible. I can't imagine what that would do to your mental health.
And a lot of paranormal experts and psychics and just people in general believe that when you're closer to death and you're closer to the other side, that you become more open and susceptible to paranormal activity or
it's really interesting. It
spirits trying to interact with you.
Yeah.
And it seems that's exactly what was happening with Philip, because it really affected him. And if there's some negative spirits or entities, you know, in this house, can imagine the effect that it have on him. I mean, apparently he started like writing like weird poetry that had really, really
very dark
themes to it. Necrophiliac.
Can you
even
blame
at times.
him? Like, I feel like you'd be having those types of feelings and things going on, whether or not you're sleeping in a morgue, just from dealing with cancer.
Totally,
you know?
totally.
That's like normal teenage stuff for someone dealing with their mortality.
I can only imagine it being enhanced by your surroundings and your environment. I mean,
it's just depressing.
We talk about that all the time too. Is like your environment is so important to your mental and mind state.
It really is. Like, we've been having construction in our house. Our house is completely disheveled. Like, we've been basically living out of our bedroom. It definitely has made us both feel really stressed out and chaotic. Like, your environment definitely has an effect on you. I mean, paint colors even. Remember, we lived in that one apartment and I painted the whole thing gray. And I just I felt so depressed and it felt dark in there. Yeah, your environment definitely has
a huge effect on you.
Yep.
And then on top of that, being in a place that's haunted, I can only imagine how crazy that would have been.
Yeah, just terrible.
So at first, his parents thought that Philip was just hallucinating because he was taking a bunch of medications for his cancer and stuff, which could have been true. Maybe he was, you know, hallucinating.
But maybe believe the kid because it's a fucking morgue.
Yeah, it's just like, how are you not making the connection there?
So
like,
ridiculous.
The amount of souls that went through, you know.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too. That's the other.
But not everyone believes in it.
Caveat to this is the people that came into this house were already deceased. So why would they be lingering in this place? That's the whole kind of debate with it.
Well, maybe some fuckery happened. Well, yeah. Maybe people were killed in there, you know.
Right. Maybe there's some traumatic shit happening in there.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with him hallucinating kind of got debunked because Carmen actually asked his oncologist about the possibility of him having some visual side effects from the drugs that he was on. And it wasn't possible, according to the doctor.
It's just so strange that they didn't think that it could actually just be real. I mean, it seems like so obvious. Why wouldn't you? I guess some people don't believe in this type of thing. And this family seemed very religious. She was very religious, right?
Yeah, I think, definitely.
So obviously, maybe you don't think that, you don't understand that items can be possessed or that spirits can attach themselves to a space. If you don't understand or believe in any of that, maybe you think it's just stuff and like it won't have any effect. It won't matter.
Yeah.
But it seems kind of like a duh if the kid's saying like, I'm seeing shit down there.
Yeah.
He probably is, right?
Right. And I think kind of the way that this went was he was the one that really, it kind of all started with him in the basement. It seemed like a lot of this paranormal activity originated from the basement. And then, you know, as they moved in and, you know, maybe these energies or entities are feeding off of Philip and things like that, they start kind of moving their way throughout the house because Carmen, the mother, did start having a lot of just crazy things happen later on. But there was actually one point in time in which Philip actually attacked his cousin Tammy with the intent to sexually assault her. And during this whole episode, they actually had him arrested.
Wow.
And taken in for a psychiatric evaluation.
Well, good. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, at that point, they're like he's getting violent and getting really, really dark.
So that wasn't in the movie.
Yeah. No, he wasn't taken to. Not the movie's the actual plot is very different.
Sexual assault out of stories.
Yeah, no. He did attack her in the movie.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a sexual assault type of thing.
Wow, that's really crazy though.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he goes into a psych ward, put him in a straitjacket, padded room, the whole 9 yards. It was just fucking crazy to think about. For 45 days he was there.
Oh my gosh. With cancer? That's such a waste of his time and his life though. Like, okay, yes, he should not have done that. That was, that definitely needs
But come on, look at his environment. Look at his
days,
situation.
Though? Oh, how depressing. That's like not a good way to deal with it. Just lock someone up in a straitjacket for 45 days.
Well, I don't know if he was in a straitjacket the whole time, but he was in a facility for a while.
Okay.
Where he was at some point in a padded room straitjacket situation.
Okay.
But I think his condition actually improved the longer he was there. Like they reported that he started kind of getting back to normal while he was away from the house. That's the whole key.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have your kids sleeping in a morgue.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Seriously. But they actually diagnosed him with schizophrenia.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Which that whole thing, you know, when you hear that and then you hear like that he's hearing voices and hearing all these things,
but maybe
you begin to wonder, like, is he actually experiencing this, or is it kind of being made up in his head, you know?
I wonder if he actually had it or not, or if they just assumed he did.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know for sure if he was schizophrenic or not, but that's kind of what they reported after he returned. But he was better when he came home. And it was kind of after he was gone and stuff when things started really picking up for the mother and the rest of the members of the family. Carmen actually recalls experiencing all sorts of weird things like items disappearing, children reporting seeing strange people in the house, as well as hearing voices and the sounds of hundreds of birds taking flight.
Interesting.
Fluttering,
just like flapping wings.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a scary noise. Could see how that would be really creepy.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Like hearing a flock of birds or like some crows in your house. And there was actually a incident where she was showering and she was all of a sudden attacked by something. And she said that, quote unquote, the shower curtain did wrap around my face so that I couldn't breathe, to the point where my niece had to come and rescue me.
That's insane. The shower curtain like basically came alive and attacked her.
Completely wrapped her up.
So a lot of people, I'm sure, don't believe that, huh? Think she's just making this up.
Some people do. But what's crazy is that, and this was one of the most shocking claims, is that the family claims, including Carmen and her husband, that they were sexually assaulted by ghosts or spiritual entities.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Both men and female.
Really?
Yes. Which is such a weird...
What did they say about it?
Like they actually had the sensation of being sexually assaulted.
What?
Yes. By an unseen entity. Which you can only imagine what that would be like. I think we've even talked about this before in the past.
We definitely have. Ghost sex. It's a very interesting
phenomenon. It's a common thing, though. It's actually a fairly common experience that people have.
People talk about doing this.
But what the hell?
I know.
Both the dad experienced this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? The dad says it too?
Yeah.
And what do they say happened? Do they like talk about it in detail?
Yeah. In the bum.
What?
Yeah, dude.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they did not mention this in the documentary.
No, because it's fucking embarrassing probably to talk about.
Wow.
But they both, the mother claims that this happened to the father, to her.
Oh my gosh.
That these spirits are just out of control.
Why did they not move?
Right?
Like, I don't care about your lease.
They didn't have the money. They didn't have the money and there was nowhere else to go. So they had to stay.
Jeez. That's rough.
Some other phenomena that Carmen reported was she was downstairs mopping. Like they had this like old tile floor, like in this coffin room, and she's down there mopping, cleaning. And all of a sudden the water just turns into blood, like blood red, thick.
Ew.
And just like, she was just like, what the fuck? Like,
I wonder what her religious beliefs were after.
Catholic.
I know, but after.
Catholic.
Still?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess maybe it'd make you believe in it more.
Oh, yeah, totally. Because, I mean, you obviously believe that there's something demonic happening here, some type of evil lurking in this house. But she said she had times where she'd be like doing dishes, and the dishes would just put themselves away, and she like doesn't recall putting them away. They would just all of a sudden be...
That's kind of nice. Maybe it was a nice ghost. Maybe they had like some good ones and some bad.
Right. Well, if you think about it, I mean, the number of individuals that went through that house, I mean, who knows what could be in there? It could be a assortment of different spirits. But they would experience sudden temperature drops, scent of rotting flesh and decay were reported throughout the house as well. But this is probably one of the creepiest things, that some of these apparitions that they saw, they describe in great detail. They said that one of these apparitions was of somebody with long black hair and black eyes, and the other with white hair and eyes, wearing a pinstripe tuxedo, like no pupil, no nothing, just like creepy as fuck.
What?
And Philip would, that's the thing too, is they both claim to seeing the same
thing.
entity.
Yeah.
These creepy ass entity. It sounds like something out of a horror film, like the way that they describe it. Like they said, one of them had a scar going down the face.
Yeah, I remember hearing
and one side was like completely smooth and just like white, metal. And then it would be it would just be like,
and it would just fly. It was just a head, right? And it would just fly around.
No, it was like a whole body.
Oh, really? I thought he said it was just a head. Well, when you hear them talk about it on the interview too, it's really interesting. Like it definitely made me believe in this more, hearing the interviews right out of their mouth too, because I don't know, they just didn't seem like they were lying. Like it seemed like they were
certain
very,
in what they saw.
And afraid of
describe in great detail what they saw.
Yeah.
But they lived with this activity for 2 years before they really decided that maybe we should do something about it. That's what's weird. Is like,
so they renewed their lease.
I don't know what their lease was for. I mean, the whole time he's getting treatment though. I think they were willing to stay there as long as he was getting treatment, and they were just kind of dealing with it.
That's so insane to me. How can you do that?
And I think a lot of it too is like the way that we're telling it sounds like they all knew what was happening all together at all times. I think the reality is that they were all sort of having their own experiences, but they weren't necessarily vocalizing everything to each other.
Yeah.
If you think about it, they all saw different things, and I mean,
together,
right. So yeah, they were in the house for 2 years before they decided that it was officially haunted, and they needed to call in some help. And that's when they called in the big guns.
The original Ghostbusters.
Yes. Renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. But before we talk about the Warren investigation, we'd like to thank our last sponsors for today.
So I personally have never had braces. I've had fairly straight teeth my whole life. So my parents were like, we're just going to save money on that one. And over the years, I've noticed that my teeth have shifted a lot, especially my lower teeth. And I've realized it's probably finally time to get braces. But that's why I started Candid, because it makes it really easy and not so noticeable and painful. Basically, Candid provides you with aligners that help you straighten your teeth faster than traditional wire braces. The treatment time takes just 6 months on average. They have experienced orthodontists who are licensed in your state, and they basically create a custom treatment plan. They go over it with you. They have a nice little meeting with you. You can just do it on your phone and watch their 3D model, and it literally shows you how it's going to change your teeth over the time. Candid's aligners are comfortable, removable, and completely invisible. They ship your aligners directly to you, so there's no hassle of going to an orthodontist office, and they cost 65% less than braces. And with each aligner purchased, Candid donates $25 to Smile Train, who brings safe, 100% free cleft lip and palate treatments to children around the globe. So check it out today. Just go to candidco.com/milehigher and use the code milehigher to get $75 off. That's candidco.com/milehigher with code milehigher for $75 off.
I love food. I love to eat food. I love to make food. But sometimes I don't have the time to go get the food from the grocery store in order to make my favorite recipes. That's where HelloFresh comes in. They are the #1 meal kit in America. They make it super easy to make delicious and healthy meals in under 30 minutes right at home. And the best thing yet is you don't have to go out to the store. You don't have to deal with the lines at the cash registers. All you have to do is go online and order a HelloFresh box. They actually send you all of the freshest ingredients in pre-measured amounts, so there's no waste. Everything gets put into the meal that you're making. And what's great is they have a huge variety of different recipes. They have family recipes to calorie smart to vegetarian, as well as fun menu series like Hall of Fame and craft burgers. What's also great about HelloFresh is they make it super convenient to change meals when you want to add extra ones when you need to, as well as yummy add-ons like garlic bread and cookie dough. Who doesn't like garlic bread and cookie dough? Like, come on. They also allow you to change your delivery days, add food preferences, and skip a week whenever you need to. I've used HelloFresh for a while now, and I've made a ton of different delicious entrees, including fajitas to burgers in the past to all sorts of delicious foods. It's always fresh ingredients. It's always the best quality meats that you can find. It's just overall delicious recipes. So right now, you guys, you can get $80 off your first month of HelloFresh if you go to HelloFresh.com/milehigher80 and enter code milehigher80. Again, if you want to check out HelloFresh, try out some delicious food at home, you can get $80 off your first month at HelloFresh. All you have to do is go to HelloFresh.com/milehigher80 and enter milehigher80 at checkout. Take advantage of that offer today. So the Warrens are a very interesting couple. They're no longer with us. Actually, Lorraine Warren passed away this year in April. And Ed died a while ago. But they did so many paranormal investigations. They investigated actually over 10,000 cases. Yeah, they really dedicated their lives to this. They're kind of the best, most well-known paranormal investigators, I think, of all time, pretty much. And pretty credible to most people. Ed was actually a demonologist, which is somebody so they have a Catholic background. Their faith is Catholic. And if you believe in demons, you probably believe in either, some type of Judeo-Christian faith, whether it's Catholicism or Christianity or any type of faith like that. They believe any faith that believes in a heaven or hell type situation.
Yeah.
But also going back to ancient times, the Greeks, other Babylonians had demon-like gods or, entities. So demons is kind of a universal thing. It's not specific to just this, even though a lot of times it's, people of these faiths that, really talk about demons a lot. But he was a demonologist and Lorraine was a medium. So the two of them together brought a lot of knowledge together. Yeah, exactly. A dream team. And they were called into a lot of cases, including the highly publicized Amityville case, which we talked about.
Right.
They investigated that thing. So the year's 1988, Carmen calls these guys in and they come to the aid of the family, and they actually moved into the home for a period of 9 weeks.
Really? With the family?
Yeah, because all the family eventually, shit was getting so crazy in the house and out of control that the family slept in the living room together, which is smart.
Yeah.
Lights on, everybody sleep together.
Better chance all together.
Right.
Yeah, they had all these weird rules towards the end. They didn't go to the bathroom by themselves either. One of the bathrooms they couldn't go in at all. They had to go in partners to go to the bathroom.
Which I would too, man.
Why wouldn't you move by now? What? This is so inconvenient.
I always wonder that too with a lot of these paranormal cases. It's why are people staying around for so long?
Yeah, it definitely.
If it's truly real, why wouldn't you leave?
Exactly. Seems like duh.
Well, also a lot of people believe that these entities attach themselves to you. So a lot of people are like, okay, well, if I leave, then they might leave with me. And so it doesn't matter where I go. A lot of people think that. And that's why they don't leave, is that they believe that they have attached themselves to you and will follow you to somewhere else. And sometimes they do. Sometimes there's cases where people move locations and they have experienced paranormal activity in another location or the exact same thing. So it's really hard to say.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's that hard to say when you have a morgue in the basement.
Right. Right. If you live in a funeral home, I can see why you'd be like, at least get out of the funeral home.
Yeah. Just not smart.
Seriously. So the Warrens not only moved in with them, but they also brought their nephew, John Zaffis, and their grandson, Chris McKennell, who were psychic researchers who aided them in the investigation. And there's a clip that I want to share of John Zaffis talking about some of the experiences that he had in the house. So we'll play that now.
One evening in August, very hot outside, all the doors and windows were open. Carmen, her husband, and the kids, and everybody had gone to sleep. And I was just jotting down some notes that evening. And it got very cold. Now, we know in haunted locations, our energy gets drawn. Why does that happen? Because the spirit needs that to be able to try and communicate and manifest. Well, I got up from the dining room table, went into this big grand hallway, and this foul smell came over me. Well, I looked up the staircase, and I seen something actually starting to form up there. It started to descend down the staircase, and it said, I don't know if I heard it audibly. To this day, I still don't know. It said, do you know what they did to us? That's what led me to believe that there were things that transpired in that funeral home that just weren't natural. If some of these bodies were being violated and the spirit was still around, how horrifying would that be for that spirit to witness something like that.
Yeah, that's really freaky.
Yeah, what do you think about that? I mean, here's a paranormal investigator saying, starting to put the pieces together, and because it really doesn't make sense. Why is there so much turmoil in this house? Why is there so much activity here?
Right.
If these spirits,
why are they angry? Why are they disturbed or traumatized?
Right.
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder. That's what I first thought when we started looking at this, is like, this is so weird too. Why have a funeral home in your house? I'm sure there were some people back then that had funeral homes and it was completely normal, but I don't know. I feel like something's just so sketch about this, and it just looked like a creepy torture room. Right, exactly.
Like, I mean, it doesn't seem like the optimal location to, bring your beloved family members to prepare them for their funeral and burial and stuff. Mm-hmm. So this is like one of the biggest points of controversy with this whole case, is that there's a lot of reported rumors that a former employee or employees of the Hallahan Funeral Home engaged in acts of necrophilia in the years prior, and that those acts may have attributed to the events that followed.
And that's maybe why the spirits did that back to the people living there.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Kind of like get revenge or
get back at it because they're pissed off. They're like, we were violated, so we're gonna just raise hell in this house. Wow. And I mean, the thing about it though is that there's no proof of any sort of crime like this happening in the news. There was no arrests. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that it didn't happen, because it could have gotten away with it for years and years and years. And, I mean, the fact that
get away with a lot of shit back then.
It's very weird. It's very bizarre. So by the end of the 9-week investigation, the Warrens came to the conclusion that the Snedeker family was not being terrorized by ghosts as originally believed, but rather demonic forces.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Big yikes.
So because they determined that there's evil shit happening here, there's demonic forces, we need to do what's, the best thing that we know to do, and that's to perform an exorcism on the house. And that's when they turned to the Catholic Church because you have to get that sanction through the Catholic Church in order for an exorcism to happen.
So that's a totally legit thing in the Catholic Church.
Absolutely.
Interesting. So I could call up my local Catholic Church and be like, I need an exorcism.
Well, I mean, it's not that easy. It's not as easy as that. It would be a process.
Do you have to like prove you're a part of the church first in order to?
I think anyone can do it.
Anybody can do it. Wow. Yeah.
I remember when my roommate thought she was possessed by the devil because she was hanging out at the cemetery. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. I don't want to get into that, but she went and saw a priest, and she brought back like holy water and salt. Yeah,
that's what happens. Is a priest will come first, and they will try. They're like the first line of defense. They'll come and.
I don't know if the priest came to it was literally our dorm room.
And I'm pretty sure it wasn't an actual priest. It was more like a.
Well, she went and visited a priest, and then she had friends that were in like the religious studies program at the school who were sleeping there at night on mattresses.
Sure.
They were also frat boys.
Yeah. Sure,
they were keeping it safe in there. No, but she really went to the church, and like they gave her like a little pack of like a little cleansing pack. It had like some salt, some little holy water. Remember the holy water? Yeah. She put it in our fish tank.
What the hell? Oh my God.
Yep. That was fun. Dorm life was super fun for me.
Yeah, seriously.
I have many stories. Experience. That was the non-exciting story I have. I have one that's way worse. Maybe I should tell that on the podcast one day, because I bet a lot of you don't know that story, because I told that on my channel.
It's so entertaining. I think you should tell the people.
Yeah, maybe we should just do like a Kendall's roommates. Oh my gosh, there could be like an entire podcast just on the two of them.
Oh my God.
It's like unbelievable, almost like something that you would see at a movie.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was crazy.
Do you know what an exorcism is, though? Do you understand what that is?
Yes. It's where they yell at you, the devil compels you, and they get the demon out of you, or whatever is possessing you, remove it from your body.
Sort of, yeah.
That is what it is.
Yeah, except they don't compel the devil to cure you. They call upon, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
No, they say the power of Christ compels you.
Right. Well, that's like what you see in movies a lot too. Yeah. Is very like, they got the crucifix out and they're like
slamming water around.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I mean, but there's actually, what's interesting is that there's a lot of secrecy around that too with exorcisms on a higher level, like, you know, Hollywood and things like that have portrayed exorcisms a certain way, or like every now and then you see videos that go viral of like pastors doing exorcisms in churches and stuff, where somebody's like wriggling on the floor and they're like devil, you know, they're just like shouting at him and stuff. But the way that the Catholic Church is very interesting because they have so many rituals around it, and they are very specific and very secretive about how they do these things. So it's a little bit different than just like, you know, they didn't just invite, when they did this exorcism, they didn't just invite like the local pastor over and he just like shouted out of his Bible at the house or something. This was like a full blown, they brought in like some really trained experts and, you know, that have these rituals and things that they say and prayers and such that they do in order to cast these demonic forces out of the house. And there's actually a clip I wanted to show on this because it's super interesting. Them talking about the exorcism that they did. Crazy.
There were 3 priests and 3 deacons. There was a strong man and a secretary to take notes.
I wasn't allowed in the house. I was too young. It was too dangerous for me to be in the house or around the house when it happened, so I stayed away with a friend.
They had brought in some religious relics, one of which was a Madonna, and they were placed in various places throughout the house. They spoke the Mass in Latin, in Hebrew, and in English.
During the exorcism, there were several different things that actually had transpired in there. We had rumbling that went through the house.
All the time. It was cold, it was nasty, and it was dark in that house.
Ed and Lorraine Warren was there. Mr. Warren got some chest pains. I was very concerned for his well-being.
And at the climax, it was like it just broke.
The second we said amen, it was like spring showed up in the house.
And that home was successfully exorcised.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty intense. I mean, I don't know. Like some people don't
interesting
believe that this happens at all and this is fake. And there's actually a lot of skepticism. Like some of the neighbors like, there is no exorcism that ever happened there.
Oh, they don't even think it happened.
But I'm pretty sure it happened. Like
seems like they weren't making that up.
Yeah.
Interesting. And it was successful.
Yeah. Well, that's what the Warrens, I mean, the Warrens were very faith-based about how they conducted paranormal investigations.
Very interesting.
Yeah. They had a very strong Catholic background. And because, I mean, and in many of the cases that they investigate, like The Nun, did you remember seeing that movie? That's another
I remember that movie.
It's another case that they investigated as well. Yeah. And that's why in a lot of these types of movies, especially dealing with demonic forces and things like that, it's oftentimes you see a priest in those movies because in reality, they're the ones that are doing the exorcisms.
Wow.
And there's proven records of successful exorcisms throughout history. You know, have you heard of the exorcism of Emily Rose? That's a famous
That's the
one.
only one I've ever heard of. And so that one was successful.
Yeah. So there's successful exorcisms that happen and people actually, you know, are possessed by something, whether it's, you know, demons from hell.
I have actually seen The Exorcist, surprisingly.
Have you?
I have seen that. I watched it with a boyfriend a long time ago. I made out with him a lot.
I was gonna say that's a classic scary movie makeout.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I was just making out for most of the movie, but I do remember it was like really fake looking. I remember the girl's head was spinning and she was like puking.
Yeah.
I remember that too.
Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, I think I was with a boy probably.
Probably. That's the only time I would watch scary movies.
Oh.
Well, it makes sense. Like Hollywood capitalizes on this stuff and they're like, oh, we can make this super crazy and scary.
Yeah, well, it is scary. The idea of being possessed by something is really freaky. Not being in control of your body.
Yeah.
It's like being drunk, but all the time.
Well, do you think a soul, like another spirit or soul, could actually enter your body and
Oof, that's so freaky to think about.
Attempt to take it over?
It seems like that's the case. I mean, I'm not the one to ask for sure, but that's pretty crazy. So quickly after their exorcism, they ended up just moving back to New York. After all that.
Right.
Wow. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, it doesn't because people are suspicious of that. Because of course, why all of a sudden would you just move out like that?
Yeah, as soon as it's fixed.
Yeah. What's the point of that?
Yeah, they just said it was like heaven when they said amen.
Yeah, it
Why
was
wouldn't
like
you stay a little longer
spring
then?
set in the house. It was like a totally different house then. So this is where the controversy comes in, because there is a lot of people that believe this was a complete hoax. This was completely fake. They made up the story and capitalized on it because it's a fucking good story. They were actually the Warrens. So, and then there's a lot of controversy with the Warrens too. A lot of people believe that the Warrens actually did not really do anything, and they would come into these, cases, and then they would capitalize on it by kind of blowing it up and bringing attention to it, in which they would bring authors in. Let's write a book about it. And they did. They wrote a book called In a Dark Place with the Snedeker family and the Warrens. And apparently, according to the author, Ray Garton, he said it was difficult to write the true story, quote unquote, because none of the involved parties could keep their story straight. It seemed to everyone was contradicting everyone else, which is very interesting. So what is up with the family today? Where are they at now? So since this happened, the children have grown up. They actually have children of their own. And Carmen is now a quote unquote spiritual advisor. And she also has plans of writing another book based on the experience with John Zaffis, the guy that was in those clips. And yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I mean, and this happens a lot of times. Like
she's done a lot since.
We saw with Amityville too.
But like, if he really did go through something like this, wouldn't you want to talk about it? Why are people so critical of people that talk about this? I get it. I get the skepticism, but like, wouldn't you want to speak about it if you really went through something like this?
Yeah. And people speak about all sorts of experiences that can't be backed up by facts or science and stuff.
If they really went through this bullshit, honestly, the least that they should get is a little money out of it, True. I don't feel like it's that bad to like sell your story if you really went through this. Well, but I guess people think, okay, they could be making it up.
Yeah, but still, it's still a story. People make up stories all the time. Totally. They don't have a problem about selling stories.
Totally. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if I went through something like this, I would sell my story.
Same.
It's the least that
I'd be like, shit, I'm making some profit off of this.
Yeah, seriously. After everything that you go through, absolutely.
I deserve something, yeah.
And I feel like it's cathartic to be able to talk about it and just like share your story with everyone else. Like, I don't know, what are you supposed to just shut up about it and like not ever profit off of it? And if you do, then you're a fraud. I don't know. That logic's a little weird to me.
Yeah, because I mean, you could look at so many other situations where this happens, or like the movie got made. The Haunting in Connecticut movie got made. Obviously,
do you think they made money off that? They must have, because it was their family. They must have made a lot off that.
The Warrens too, and the Warrens are involved with a lot of their cases turned into Hollywood movies. That's why people are skeptical, is because so many cases they investigated in objects. Annabelle. Look at Annabelle.
Oh, there's multiple.
Well, they have the actual original Annabelle. They have possession of it in their museum.
It's interesting that most of the really well-known Halloween or not Halloween haunted movies or scary movies are like based off true stories.
Most of them are. Most of them have. Yeah, most of the good ones, right?
Yeah.
Have elements of true events that happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Most of the ones I've ever watched or thought were like really freaky were based on true events or yeah. Usually they're not based totally on a true story. It's not like they follow the story, play by play, but they definitely take it and put some of the real elements in there, and it's pretty freaky. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we may never know the truth about this. Unfortunately, Philip ended up dying from his cancer. It went into remission for a while, and he actually lived quite a while after all of this. He had 4 children and everything, had a family.
Okay.
But eventually cancer claimed his life on August 9th, 2012.
Wow, but he did live a long time, a lot longer than they thought.
Yeah, totally.
Would they say 6 months at first?
Well, it ended up being just Hodgkin's. They thought it was non-Hodgkin's, and it ended up being Hodgkin's, which still could kill you, but he lived quite a bit longer and through this whole experience. There was no interview though. Like I would try to look for like did they interview Philip? Like, did he ever go on camera to talk about this?
Especially if he was around till 2012. That's so surprising. Maybe he didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
He probably went through some shit in that basement.
Or none of it happened. And he's just, I mean, that's the flip side, is like maybe none of it happened. And the mom is kind of capitalizing on this. But when you watch the clips, and there's a lot of clips of the mom, like she went on CNN talking about it, and people will definitely hound her, but she stayed pretty...
I mean, it's
pretty
hard
solid
to like
about it.
accuse someone of making this up when there's literally a morgue in the basement. I mean, this just makes sense. Of course, this was haunted.
Right. Seems very likely that there would be paranormal activity in this house.
I don't know. I mean, to me, they come across as pretty genuine.
But you never know.
Especially
these
the
days.
kids.
Yeah.
The interviews of the kids now
True.
that they're adults.
Yeah. And
I mean,
how they describe why would you put your credibility, your reputation on the line? Why, make yourself look like a fool?
Especially because they were all younger and they were consistently saying the same thing. And a lot of the times younger people will be more honest.
Clairvoyant, right?
Yeah, or more clairvoyant. Yeah, but just honest.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, will we ever know the truth about the haunting in Connecticut?
Yeah, you guys will have to let us know if you think.
If you think it's a true story, or people still go to this house.
Oh, I'm sure.
And here's the other part too. Before we wrap it up, is that the owners before and the owners after both claim that there's no activity whatsoever.
Interesting. I was going to ask.
They're like, I lived in it before. These guys moved in. They had all this activity.
That was after the exorcism, though. They said it was a successful exorcism.
Well, the owners before they moved in said too that there was no activity for them.
Well,
supposedly.
Perhaps it is a lie. Guess we'll never know.
We'll never know. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's their experience and their experience alone. We have no way to know for sure. But yeah, let us know what you guys think about this. Really crazy story, though. It's one of the creepier ones out there. Definitely watch the movie too. It's
I won't be watching
Kendall
it.
said, yeah.
It's a good one though. I hope I can watch it with you sometime because you find it pretty wild.
Nope. The trailer.
How close is it to the story, to the real story?
It seemed really close just from the trailer.
I mean, without giving anything away, they added characters to it. There's a boy, essentially in the movie, there's a boy. Well, there's a boy in the real story too, a spirit that Philip is interacting with. And this boy is kind of trapped and he was used. They really played up the whole, like, there was some dark shit happening in this place.
Yeah,
like,
there was
this wasn't just a
torture or
normal
something.
funeral home. They were doing like some black magic. They were using these bodies in order to like channel the dead and sort of take control of these souls and like use them for evil and stuff. Like, it gets really crazy.
Interesting.
And they do like seances in it and stuff. It gets like really wild. There's some crazy visuals in it too for for a scary movie. I don't know. I think if you like this kind of stuff, I'd definitely check it out if you haven't watched it.
I'm sure a lot of you have seen it.
Yeah.
It's the right time to get spooky.
It is. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of the Mile Higher Podcast.
We'll be back with another spooky topic next week.
We will. Can't wait. But that's it. We will see you guys next time.
Yes.
Stay safe.
And stay woke.